Hey guys, I'm Mike and welcome back to the SimRacing Den. I'm very excited to share my first impressions and short-term review of the Grid Engineering MPX steering wheel. It's been a few months in the waiting for this to come in, and I have to say it's been one of the products that I've been most excited to get my hands on. Now, this was a unit that I did purchase myself in pre-order. This wasn't sent to me by Grid. I don't have any affiliation or anything with them. Just a big fan of their products. And when I initially saw this wheel announced, I had a really good feeling that this was going to check all the boxes for me in terms of a perfect sim racing steering wheel. Grid is known for a couple of different products, but I would say one of their most sort of standout products would be their other steering wheel that they have. They only have the two right now that they offer, which is the MPX and the Porsche RSR replica wheel, which you may have seen this wheel before. I mean, if you're a Porsche fan like me, it is on the top of my sim racing bucket list or wish list, but we're talking about a wheel that's over $3,000, I think, probably more here in Canada. But something I would love to own. But does it make sense to have a $3,000 steering wheel? Maybe not, but it's definitely something that any of us would probably love to have on our rig potentially. But when I saw this wheel announced and they were marketing this as a much more affordable or attainable option, I should say, this still falls into the category of a high-end steering wheel. Something like an Asher Racing or a Cube Controls. It's a little bit of an upgrade from a button plate and a rim to, a full wheel. It's not quite as expensive as something like a Gomez Sim Industries wheel, which is going to offer you, a lot more buttons and screens and things like that. But I really felt that the total package and the price of this wheel is an extremely great value for what you're getting. You're getting a top-notch product from a company that really makes high-quality products. I kind of knew that going in from what I've heard, and now that I've had the experience of using this wheel, it's very clear to me that they are making extremely quality products. Everything from the fit and finish, the feel. As soon as you take it out of the box, you just know you have something special. And I'm really impressed with this wheel, and I'm going to go into more detail into this video why. And hopefully, if you're someone who's on the fence and you maybe have been looking at this wheel, didn't want to jump on the pre-order initially, wasn't sure. Hopefully by the end of this video, you might have a good idea of if it's the wheel for you. Obviously, there's some things to consider. Not everything is perfect, but I'd say the wheel is very close to perfect. There are some things that you need to take into consideration really just in terms of your setup and maybe the type of wheelbase that you're using, but I would say most of these things are minor. So let's go into it and let's talk about the specs, and let's go through all the different features of the wheel, the hardware, the design. Then we'll talk a little bit about configuration, how this is configured within SimHub. What are the options you have with all these lights that you see? How much can you customize? And I'll tell you, it's a lot. It's almost overwhelming, and not in a bad way, just overwhelming in the sense that there are so many options in terms of how you can customize how the different lighting reacts to telemetry and controlling the wheel. So we'll get into that, and I'll show you a little bit. I'll share my screen and we'll talk about that. And then I'll do a quick drive test, and I'll kind of talk to you a little bit about the wheel, my impressions as I'm driving, and a little bit more as to what I think about this wheel. So specs, let's talk about the grips. So actually, first things first, the size of the wheel. So it's a 295 millimeter wheel, which I think, honestly, I wasn't sure what the size was going to be like when I first got it, but it really feels like the perfect size. Like, it's just not too small, not too big. It makes sense, for driving like a GT style car or even a Formula car. Like, it really is a universal wheel in that sense. And I do like when the wheel kind of looks similar to the wheel that you're driving in the car. And I mean, this mimics like a lot of GT3 style cars. I don't know, even like a McLaren wheel or a Mercedes AMG wheel, some of the Porsche wheels. So it really is suitable for that type of racing for sure, but you can also use this as a Formula style wheel, or really just use it with any car that you're driving sim racing if you want. But my intention was to have something that was a GT3 style car, wheel, which I think it really suits that for sure. So size is great. Shape of it is great. The grips feel extremely well. Really comfortable. I mean, they just feel perfect. They just kind of fit my hands perfectly. And obviously this is a subjective thing and may not be comfortable for everyone, but they've really done a good job of, the placement of everything in terms of the grips, where your thumbs sit, the thumb, where your thumbs can lie here. Just everything in terms of reaching the paddles is great for me. There is some adjustability obviously with the paddles, but honestly out of the box, I didn't even really have to change anything. The full housing here is anodized billet aluminum, so it's extremely solid, extremely well made. This is, there's very little plastic outside of the buttons and knobs, which are a very nice high quality plastic for sure. And then you've got this carbon fiber front. Everything just the fit and finish, the edges, like just it's perfect. Like it looks great in my opinion. I really like the understated look of it in a way. Like it's funny. It has a lot of functionality, and even with the lights on, it still looks very simple, understated. And I do really actually appreciate when a product looks great on a sim rig. I know most people are thinking like, why do you care what it looks like? I care about functionality and looks. When you're spending this much money on stuff, it is important to me personally. So if it's something that's important to you, I mean, I think it speaks for itself in terms of the overall design. But they've really thought out well in terms of the button placement and the knobs, and you're getting a ton of controls in this package. So let's talk about that now. On the front, you've got 8 buttons here, normal push style buttons, and they feel like really good to click, kind of satisfying sound. I love when a wheel has really nice buttons. Looks like I just put it in some sort of mode there. Anyways, and then on the top here, you've got 2 funky switches, right? Navigation, you can turn these, press on them. They feel really good, and they're in a really nice spot too, because if you're driving, you can just, like my thumb reaches no problem. And I don't have like very super huge hands, so it's not a problem reaching it. Then on the side here, you've got 4 rotary knobs, 2 here, 2 here, that are in a great place as well. Like it's just really easy. Like look how easy I can make adjustments here, and they're firm enough that you won't hit these accidentally, but easy enough to switch with very little force. Just the way they're shaped, and then you can press on that too. So you've got 4 extra push buttons there as well. And then if that wasn't enough on the front, you've now got 4 more traditional style rotary knobs, where these are great for your ABS, your traction control, your brake bias, and you can push on those too, right? And then even more on the back, let me just flip this over. You've got these auto buttons, and I didn't really know too much about these, and I didn't realize that these are actually on a lot of real life race cars and even GT3 cars, is that these can be mapped to different shortcuts or quick settings or setups. So if on the fly, like they're really easy to just press behind the wheel as you're driving, without any, movement of your hands off of the wheel. And they're not in a place where you're going to accidentally hit them either. They're not easy. Like you can't flick it by accident. You have to be pressing on it. So extremely like well thought out design, in my opinion. Everything is reachable. These knobs, even just to kind of move your hand like that, make an adjustment, and you're back in business. So I think it's great. I think the design is fantastic. I love it, and it really suits my rig. And yeah, couldn't be more happier with that. So we talked about that. LEDs. So you see the lights here. There's 87 individual RGBs that are controllable through telemetry, meaning that you can have them react to different things within the game. Whether you activated your pit limiter, could flash one of these lights. So these buttons have 4. Each of these buttons has 4 RGBs, meaning that you can alternate between the colors. So if I press this and I go to pit mode, I could have it flash red, flash green, or it could be momentary or stationary. So you can really customize how they react to functions within the game, right? Even with the knobs, you can have it so that if you turn it, it will do a ring of light, or it can turn and switch per section, right? Because you've got 11 around here. So you can see already the endless possibilities, and you can customize all of this through SimHub. And in the future, actually, they're going to be coming out with their own software called Race Director, which they're still working on, is in the beta phase right now. But when that comes out, they'll be releasing it to have functionality with their DDU units that I have, which is the DDU5, and their DDU10, the Porsche replica dashboard as well, and to work with their wheels, obviously. So I know what you're thinking, like, okay, another sim racing software I have to install, which is true. Like I'm already have quite a few now, and I do like that SimHub can control a number of different peripherals. So it is controllable through SimHub. I think you'll be curious to see what Grid's own software looks like. I'm sure it will be, maybe a simpler way to control and adjust the wheels. So And it's, likely not something you're going to do maybe a million times. But anyways, just know that that is on the horizon. So let's talk about paddles. So the paddles here, you've got your gear shifts here, and wow, these paddles feel like really good. I mean, I don't have a ton of wheels to compare this to. This is really the best steering wheel that I've owned. Um, but these paddles are just really feel great, and they have such a nice actuation to it and click. And I don't think they're super loud either. I would say the paddles, I would say the paddles on the BB Ultra are louder than this for sure. And then you've got clutch, which you can have as analog, dual, or switch. And I got to be honest with you, I don't really know too much about these clutch paddles because I've never owned a wheel with these clutch paddles, and I do want to use it in some way. But I've never really had a wheel with that, so I haven't really had a chance to experience using them. But I will be exploring that, and just know that you can switch the modes for those clutch paddles directly on the wheel, which is nice. So even if you're in game, you don't have to back out, go into software, and switch the mode. There's a way to activate by holding down two buttons, and then you can switch the clutch mode on the fly. So let's talk about mounting and the connection to your computer, as well as the power injection box that this comes with, and I'll explain how that works. So on the back here, you've got a 6-pin, it's called a Lumberg connector. I had to check that. It's almost like, it reminds me of like a serial port connector. So there's pins, and then that just, slots in here. And then this actually screws to tighten. So this is like really firm. So it's really going to avoid any accidental disconnections. You do want to be wary of this connection here. It does bend, but I wouldn't want to put a lot of force or bend on that. So I've sort of got the cable and the power injection box in a good spot here. Mounting. So I'm using the SimHub QR system. It would work with a standard 70 millimeter bolt pattern. So it should work with all the, the main QR systems on the market. I think you're not going to have too much problems with that. You could use it with a Fanatic wheelbase, but you are going to need a podium hub. As you may know, if you're a Fanatic user and do use third-party wheels already, but if you don't, you do need to always have a podium hub that makes the initial connection to the wheelbase, because with Fanatic, it still needs to see that connection from the hub, which doesn't make sense to me as much, but it's how they work. This was part of the reason why I did switch to SimiCube, because I wanted an easier way to try out third-party wheels like this. It will work great with Fanatic. Just know that you do need to purchase a podium hub and then attach that to the wheel, and then the wheel will work independently of the Fanatic wheelbase via USB to your computer, right? So with a SimiCube, it's just a matter of mounting your wheel mount kit to the wheel. Just know there is a spacer here that's pre-installed. This is not removable, this part here. So it does add a little bit of length to your overall wheel assembly. So when I put it on the rig here, I had to adjust the distance of my wheel, because a lot of my other wheels normally sit further back, which means that thankfully on this ASR Pro cockpit, which is fantastic, and part of the reason I bought it is that it has a quick adjust wheel mount. So I can move wheel deck, I should say. I can move the wheel deck back and forth, and I had to push this all the way back to its furthest position where I have it right now. It's partly because I have an extension on my SimiCube as well, just because I like where everything lines up with that extension. But yeah, I mean, not a big issue. Just know it adds a little bit of length to that overall assembly once you have it mounted. So yeah, the connection to your computer. So I don't know if you can see this here, probably not, but there's an injection box here, and that connects the same way as it did with the wheel. Same connector style here, the 6-pin connector. That connection box at the back has a output to power, so it comes with a power brick with all the international connectors and North American connector. So you just want to have a power bar obviously nearby, which you probably do if you have a SimRacing setup. I actually have a power bar on a shelf here that's mounted behind my center monitor, which makes it really easy to plug everything in there and not have any wires coming down to the floor. And then on the back, there's a connection which with an included USB cable. I believe it's USB B to USB A to your PC. or USB port or extender, I should say. So yeah, works well. I mean, ideal like a wire. I love wireless wheels, but I guess in order to get all the functionality of this, it does need a direct connection, but it does avoid having to worry about a battery or keeping it charged or plugged in all the time. So yeah, so I mean, the setup is great. Everything is included that you need to get going out of the box. There's no upgrades here needed, nothing at all. Everything's included that you need to get this installed outside of the obviously the quick release wheel mount, which you'll need to purchase depending on what you use. So included with the wheel itself as well is a sticker pack which you can customize all the different decals. I haven't decided how I want to map everything out finally yet. So I usually wait till I'm like 100% sure with steering wheels before I start putting stickers on it, because inevitably then I have to start removing them if I change my mind, and then you end up maybe ruining a sticker that way. So I usually wait till I've kind of had a chance to drive around with the wheel and figure out where everything needs to go, which makes sense for me. But just know they include some really nice stickers that have a see-through area for the text, so that the light actually shines through that sticker. I'll put a picture up here of what it looks like with decals from their website. And then you've also got a space here on the rotaries, which is perfect. They include labels for those rotaries, so it just sits nicely here. So it's really easy to see and clearly see what everything is mapped to once you put stickers on it. So yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the specs, everything that's included. I should mention the weight of the wheel, is 1,700 grams. It does have some weight to it. I mean, I have to say I was kind of impressed when I pulled it out of the box initially. Like, it gives me an impression that it's very well built, but it doesn't feel cumbersome or heavy. It feels actually extremely well balanced. It's hard to explain the driving feeling, but it just felt very different from any other wheel I've used, because, my experience ranges from, I've tried pretty much all the Fanatic wheels and wheelbases, and I've recently been experimenting with some different button plates like the Turn BB2 and the BB Ultra from SimRacing Bay. But there's something about just the balance of it and just the driving feel of it just feels really nice, really cool feeling. Yeah, it's clear that this is a very well thought out design, thought out product from Grid. First impressions out of the box, the buttons, how everything feels, the fit and finish is just top notch all the way. So we'll talk about the setup and configuration. I'll share my screen here with you, and we'll take a look at SimHub, and I'll show you a little bit about where you would go to control things in the meantime till their own software comes out. Then you'll also have that option as well. And then we'll do a drive test. Okay, so we're in SimHub now. So obviously one of the first things you'll need to do, if you haven't done already, is make sure you have SimHub, and usually the latest version is the best thing to have, because they recently added in the ability to add the Grid MPX wheel, which is nice to see that this is actually like an officially supported device within SimHub. So if you were doing this for the first time, you see I have it here in my devices here with the Grid DDU5, which is there. You just go to add new device, and you would go to Grid by SimLab MPX, hit OK, and then this would pop up here. Now there are some initial profiles for the LEDs to download from Grid, I should say, initially, which work really well. I haven't really decided on how I want to configure all these lights yet, but you would just basically go here to the profile manager, and then that would bring up the profile manager window here. Right now I don't have it enabled, but this is the default profile. So it has things like the speed limiter, animation, and everything. You do have to keep in mind knowing what the numbers of each of these buttons are, and then you can set the different colors of the LEDs. So you can have alternating colors, you can have two colors. I mean, like, the customization options are almost insane in terms of what you can do here. You can have flags and warnings. So, you could have certain lights light up based on the flags. It's similar to what you see when you do this with like a DDU unit or a dash display. You can set the LEDs, the rev limiter lights, to do different things based on it, whether you have the pit limiter on or whether there's what flag is happening in the race. So You can customize this per game. You can have more than one profile. The nice part right now too, as I'm sort of exploring the options here, and I have to say, there's already some profiles that are on the Grid Discord, and the Grid Discord community is a really nice, thriving community actually. And as people are getting their hands on this wheels, people that are smarter than me when it comes to this stuff, I'm not so great at setting up these profiles. I got to be honest. I'm gonna dig into it more, and I'll hopefully create one that's decent. But there's already ones being shared on the Discord server that you can download. Some people have made some great ones specifically for iRacing. So I expect they'll be, more and more available as more people get their hands on this that have a lot more expert experience with SimHub. I would say like this part can be a little bit complex. It's not a negative. It's just know that going into it. But just know that there's default profiles you can use. And I find it fun to experiment with, but this is something if you like to tinker with these things, it's something you're going to enjoy. I know this is going to be something I enjoy when I really set aside some time to it. I've lately just sort of been testing the overall feeling of the wheel, the driving. I haven't dug into these profiles yet, but I'll probably come back and do another video where I go into this way more in depth. I just wanted to show you where you can find this and know that within the Discord community with Grid, you could go in there and shop a couple different profiles, reach out to some users on there, see what they're doing. Maybe they have a profile you can use, which I think is really cool that people are sharing that kind of thing. And I'm sure that's going to increase as more people get their hands on this wheel. So let's just go back here into the main device screen. This is also where you can edit the different lighting as well. So let me just share that window here. Hopefully you can see that now. Yeah. So here is where you can actually change the colors of the wheel itself, right? So if I wanted to, now I just have to add another window here, of course. There we go. Okay, so what happens when I click on the buttons here, you get like any color you want, right? So you can customize that per button, as well as the rotaries can be customized as well. So, and that's just done through here, the encoders, I should say. So the encoder and the button section work the same way. You can have profiles for the encoders as well, and profiles for the buttons, and then change the lighting individually. So you can already see like how many options you have here. You can also change things like the overall brightness of the lights as well, which is just done through here. And you can't see my wheel right now, but here, let me just show you. So it's going to adjust the brightness, and it can get really bright. I kind of just keep it at 50, and I find that that's a nice balance. But if you have the lights off when you're racing or you're doing a night race, you might want to turn it down a little bit. But that's a great part. I love having lights on the steering wheel now, because I always like when I'm doing night races, I want everything to be dark in here and really immersive. But then I couldn't see like my buttons anymore. But usually your muscle memory will figure it out. But it is really cool to be able to see those buttons now. You can set the default lighting. You can have different lighting that is lighting that is in a race or when you're in a game versus when you're just sitting here in the rig, nothing's loaded. You just have your wheel on display. You could have different lighting going on. So it's so cool to see like all this customization with this. And like SimHub, it is a little bit, there is a lot of settings here, but I'm hoping that through their race director software that they're coming out with, that, they might simplify this process a little bit, which I'll be a fan of, because I do find that it is a little bit time consuming to create all these profiles. So hopefully maybe within their software, they might have some presets and things like that. So I'm not too sure. I will be getting my hands on the beta version. Actually, I did ask to be a part of the program. I won't be able to share it with you, obviously, because I don't think that's the right thing, obviously, to do with a beta, and not the intention of it. I wanted to be able to provide feedback to them, and I thought it'd be fun to be a part of the process and get a sneak peek of it, and then be able to help kind of shape it and make improvements to it, and provide my feedback as well. So thankful to have the opportunity to test that out and see what it's all about. So really that kind of sums up the setup. Like I said, the matter of when you get it out of the box, just a matter of downloading SimHub, loading up the default profile, And then mapping the buttons is like any normal steering wheel. You go into the game and map the buttons to the wheel. Now, one of the things you can do, if you have checked out my other video where within SimHub there is a way to make wheel swapping easier by setting different controls using a virtual controller. I suggest you check out that video. I will have a link up here, and that will talk a little bit more about making swapping wheels a lot easier with sim racing using SimHub. So let's go into a driving test, and I'll give you my final thoughts, my impressions of driving with this wheel, and you can see it in action on the track. Okay, so we're here at Spa, one of my favorite circuits to drive, and in a Ferrari for a change, not a Porsche. Thought I'd give this a shot. So let's give it a go. So as my usual disclaimer when I'm doing GoPro point of view videos, as I'm still getting used to it, is forgive my driving, because I'm usually focusing on what I want to say on the fly, and got a GoPro strapped to my head, and which kind of covers my eyes, but it's not too bad, and then a microphone in my face. So I'm more focusing on what I want to say and giving you my impressions on how the wheel feels to drive than worrying about track limits and my gear shifts. So don't make fun of me in the comments. I don't normally drive like this. You know, like I said, the grips feel so good. When you're driving, like, it just feels so comfortable to use. It just gives me so much more confidence, I feel, than some other wheels I've used, because you just really feel like you have a good grip on the wheel and a good sense of control. It feels very balanced. The weight, it doesn't, affect any of the force feedback. I feel like it just enhances it. Like, the overall driving experience with this wheel just feels like so nice. I mean, look, I've never driven a Ferrari 488 GT3 race car. I have no idea what it should feel like, but all I can tell you is this overall experience now, combined with the wheel, the feel of it, the look of it, it's extremely immersive. Like, it's just a lot of fun. Like, and that's what this is all about, is just having fun. It's not, do you need to spend this much money on a wheel to have fun? No, 100% not. I 100% recognize that this wheel is not attainable at this price, but if it's something that you want, you are not going to be disappointed whatsoever. I think it is a very good value for what you're paying when you compare it to other wheels on the market. Yes, it doesn't have a screen, but you will be paying more for a wheel that has a screen in some cases. I know there's some out there that are probably close in price, but like, it just doesn't offer the full package that this has. Sorry, that corner was terrible, I know. It just, for me, this checked all the boxes, and it might for you too, when you look at the total package, what it offers. Do some research on Grid as a company. I can tell you without a doubt their products are really well made. I have this wheel and their DDU. Their DDU, obviously not a product you interact with very much other than looking at it, but I can tell you from the build quality, it's extremely well made, so it doesn't surprise me that this wheel is well made as well. They clearly spend a lot of time thinking about the design and quality of the products and the materials that they use. So yeah, driving feel is fantastic. Paddle location, in terms of reaching them, no problem. Reaching buttons, not an issue whatsoever. You can see reaching these knobs here, no issues. And the shape of the wheel, like, it's kind of suits this car. I think like this Ferrari would have a similar shaped wheel. It's something that I kind of like, and it's funny though, I never want to switch wheels now since I've started using this. I have other wheels, and the reason I have those wheels is because I do like the wheel to somewhat closely match what I'm using in the game, right? If the car is a round wheel, I like to have a wheel that somewhat matches that. I just find it more immersive and more fun that way. I mean, but now I never want to stop using this wheel. But I've just gotten really used to and really enjoy the feeling of using it and the comfort of it and just the quality of the buttons and the paddles. Like it's kind of hard to go back to the BB Ultra button plate now, or and not this isn't a negative on those products. They're very well made. It just there's such a difference in how this wheel feels to me now that I've tried it. Obviously, it is the best wheel I've owned, and I haven't owned a wheel of this price point before, so I don't have a lot to compare to, but I can tell you, if you're someone who's not owned a wheel like this before and you're thinking about it and you're thinking, is it worth it? Yes, I think it's worth it. So I think I'll leave it at there. I think I've said as much as I can say here. I've tried to be honest and open with you guys. You know, I know I've been a little bit crazy over it, and honestly, I'm gushing because that's honestly how I feel. As another sim racer, I really wanted this wheel, and I really don't regret it one bit. It's extremely enjoyable to use, and I know I kind of left a lot to be explained when it comes to configuring the lights and stuff like that in SimHub, but I was just really excited to talk to you about my first impressions of the hardware and driving, and I will try to put something together in a future video when I figure out how to configure some profiles a little bit better. But just know that there's a lot of profiles. You know, there will be more profiles available through the community, and hey, let me know in the comments if you own this wheel and you have some profiles that you tried. I'd love to know about them and try them for myself. If you liked this video and you enjoyed it, you found it helpful, if you're on the fence and need some help, let me know in the comments and hit that like button. It definitely helps recommend my content to other sim racers on YouTube. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, I would ask you to consider supporting me that way. And I will give back with lots more sim racing content, reviews, and videos to help you out. So until the next one, stay safe and happy racing.